Noon. We're holding today's meeting at Northern Middle School. There is no public comment for the 4 o'clock portion of public agenda. We will hopefully come back at 6 o'clock for the remainder of the public agenda. Under Section 3-305B of the General Provisions Article of the Maryland Annotated Code, there are two reasons the board will go into closed session this evening: to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom this public body has jurisdiction. Any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals. To conduct collective bargaining negotiations, to consider matters that relate to the negotiations. Specifically, the topics for tonight will be 3-305B1. Topic includes personnel update. 3-305B9, topics include GASA contract language, updates, healthcare, and salary parameters. The reason these topics will be discussed in closed session instead of open session is as follows. Personnel topic pursuant to 3-305B1 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because they include a discussion of specific employees, which is confidential employment matter. Negotiation topics pursuant to 3-305B9 disclosed above will be considered in closed session rather than open session because of the confidential nature of collective bargaining process. Hearing all of that, are there any objections by board members to going into executive session? Hearing none, is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
So moved by Jason.
Second.
Seconded by Josh. Discussion. Those in favor of going into executive session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we are in executive. 2024. We did finish with our executive session on time, so that's a good thing. So I'd like for you to please stand for a moment of silence and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student member. Before we start with the moment of silence, and also our last meeting, we remembered a couple of the people that have been important to our school system. We did lose Ms. Wusick, who was a member in the northern end in various capacities. So I know Mildred was a big asset to the northern end of the county. So I'd like for you to remember that family as you have a moment of silence. Thank you. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Thank you. Take a motion to approve the public agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Jason,
Second.
seconded by Sadie. Discussion? All those in favor of the public agenda as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved by Josh,
Second.
second by Sadie. Those in favor of the consent agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Closed session summaries and announcements, as been our past practice for the last few months, can be found on the website. If you have any interest in any of the minutes or any of the things that would fall into those two categories. Our first item is new business. It's the Northern High School and Southern High School Gymnasium floor refinish project, an action item tonight. Mr. Wozlowski.
Okay, good evening. I'm here tonight to request the approval to redo our gym floors at both Southern and Northern High School. This is a local capital funding improvement project. It went out for procurement for board policy and procedure. We received one bid. So I'm asking tonight for Gold Standard Consulting or Keystone Sports to be awarded the amount of $107,685.88 to redo our floors.
Dr. McCarty, you have a recommendation?
My recommendation is to approve Gold Standard Construction, DBA Keystone Sports Construction, to refinish the Northern Garrett and Southern Garrett High School gymnasium floors.
Okay, Superintendent's made a recommendation that we accept the proposals given by Mr. Wozlowski. Is there a motion? So moved by Rodney.
Second.
Second by Jason. Discussion, concerns, questions?
Yeah, what's the price difference, Rich, between northern and southern? Why is one more and one?
Northern's main gym was 34,697 or 679.81. Southern's main gym was 35,629.
Yeah, why is there a difference? Aren't they essentially the same thing?
I'm not sure. It could be a little bit more square footage, a little more product. Maybe some boards need to be replaced. You know, whatever they did when they visited the floors.
It says June and July. Do you have any kind of idea as to how much of June and July?
It's 2 weeks for each.
2 weeks?
2 weeks at each school.
Each school, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yep.
Any other questions, concerns? Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept the recommendation by the superintendent. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we are finishing the floors. Our next item is a storage building construction at Broadford Elementary School. It's also an action item tonight.
Yeah, I'm here tonight to ask for the award of our first projects that will be associated with the renovation of Southern Middle School into would be our new Broadford Elementary School. As part of the project, we've kind of determined that we need to create some kind of storage facility site to support this project, and also to replace the current facility site that we use for storage, which is up on South A Street in Oakland. Those buildings are very run down. We've also were approached, and I know the board had granted possibly the idea of turning that property back over. So putting those things together and trying to solve the storage thing, we came up with a proposal working with our construction management firm to construct a 4,000 square foot storage facility building to house not only some equipment to support the Southern Elementary when it's done, but just general storage for the school system as we go forward. Right now, the schedule is to start here next month in April, weather pending, and having completed by June. So as we start to empty Southern Middle School, we have a place to kind of store some of the items from there in preparation for the project. This was bid through our construction management firm, Howard Shockey, who received 2 bids. We are working with that local capital improvement funding to fund this. So the proposal that I'm asking tonight for is $497,753 to be awarded to Howard Shockey, with a note that one of the subcontractors to build the building is Blue Ribbon Builders, who is locally here in Oakland. Okay.
Dr. Picard, do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation is to approve Howard Shockey and Sons and their subcontractor, Blue Ribbon Builders, to construct a storage building for Broadford Elementary School.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion so we can discuss.
Motion by Jason. Second?
Second.
Second by Rodney. Discussion? Questions? Concerns? Hearing none. Motion on the floor to accept the bid of $497,753 as the maximum amount that would be spent by Howard Shockey and Sons utilizing subcontractor Blue Ribbon Builders. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And we are building the building.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, we have policies and procedures. JCB admission to school out of attendance area policy and procedures is a revision. And Mr. Hummel is the presenter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Come to you presenting the first read of JCB admission to school out of area policy and procedure. We were looking at revising this. It was revised in 2020, but we thought, looking at the landscape of our school system, to look at what we're doing compared to the rest of the state. So I compared other policies and procedures for out of area across the state with what we're doing. Also talked to our local administrator, building administrators, transportation department, and others to get feedback. But more or less what we were trying to do is look at if there is capacity within our buildings, providing options for parents to look at them looking at other alternate than placements in school other than their possible homeschool, depending on different reasons. So We have adjusted what you see in red here. A couple of the big takeaways from this is one of the changes that we would be making is if an out of area is approved for a student, let's say a kindergarten or at accident wants to transfer and go to Friendsville, and if it's approved, they would not have to reapply. Our policy right now, annually, they would have to reapply. Unless they switch schools, they would be good until they switch schools, so they would not have to repeat every year. So I think that's a good thing for parents in our school system. And also we're looking at with transportation, unless they're going to a child care facility. And I think a lot of our parents already provide a lot of transportation to our out of areas, whether it's our employees going from school to school or even parents dropping off at schools. We see a lot of parent transportation. So working with transportation, that was a change to our policy and procedure too. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Sure. This is first read, so are there any questions? We've received the first documents. Anyone? Nothing?
Great,
We'll
thank you.
ask them next month. Thank you. GCBDA Family Medical Leave Act procedure is also a revision, and this is Dr. Wilson.
So good evening. This evening, we do have a couple revisions that we'd like to recommend to the Family Medical Leave Act procedure. The first is to bring it into alignment with the law, Family Medical Leave Act. On the last page of the procedure, you will see a list of forms. Our recommendation is we want to remove those forms because this process is so intimate. We want to make sure that our employees reach out to our staff in the Human Resource Office so we can help assist them through this process.
What, first read, questions, concerns? Okay, thank you. EFJ, Food Service Satelliting Program Policy and Procedure. I think Dr. McCartney is going to make that presentation.
Yes, and I'm just going to stay here because it's going to be very short. Mr. Germain is not able to be with us tonight. He took to the policy committee the four policies, procedures that you see on your agenda. All of these are recommended to be retired. Procedure, sorry, let me find his notes. EFJ is no longer needed. He recommends that policy and procedure EFJ be retired, as it may not always be the best business decision. There are times we continue to satellite food and supplies, other times when we purchase what is needed from a vendor, and does not feel that that policy procedure needs to be in place for satelliting. The EFAA, he recommends retiring because it should be retired as other COMAR and federal regulations already cover it. The last to be retired is serving dinners and banquets, KGAB, and this procedure is completely irrelevant because we no longer offer those services.
Okay, thank you. Questions about any of those proposed retirements? Any questions? Yes.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear you.
It just, I can answer that. Actually, go ahead.
When I say EFJ, that is the code in the policy and procedure book.
Okay.
Did we answer your question? Okay.
As our procedure, those will be out for retirement on our website. They're going to be retired. If there is no concerns, it'll be a part of the consent agenda next month. Okay. We are at public comment, but it's not 7 o'clock, so we're going to wait. We'll come back again for public comment later on, so that those that are maybe coming late have a chance to express their comments. So we'll move on to continuing business. We do have a draft school year 24-25 calendar. It is an action item this evening. Yes. Good question. Before we vote on the calendar, are there individuals who came to speak on the calendar, specifically on the calendar? I want to give you an opportunity to speak. Okay, great. All right, Dr. Wilderson.
Good evening.
If I may, sorry, before Dr. Wilderson speaks regarding the calendar, because of some late information we had about possible virtual learning days, on the calendar at a glance, it's up there, we are modifying what is in that box to say, at least we are recommending to the board on the calendar, that there are 3 makeup days scheduled during the school year to account for potential inclement weather. These makeup days are marked with snowflakes and will be used in numerical order as possible makeup days, starting with January the 20th, 2025. We are removing or recommending that we remove December the 2nd as a possible makeup day. If additional days are needed, the school year will be extended to meet the state requirement of 180 days. We'll continue with, since it's impossible to predict inclement weather days or emergency system-wide closing, it is recommended that vacations not be scheduled until at least after June 13th to avoid any scheduling conflicts. I apologize for bringing this in late, but we just received some additional information, and that by making this change, we will have more potential of being able to use a virtual learning day. Thank you, Dr. Wilderson.
So this evening, we are asking the board to take action on the proposed 2024-2025 school academic calendar with the post-Labor Day start on September the 3rd, 2024, with the last student day on June 5th, 2025, if the calendar is approved as presented. Before a vote is taken, we would like to highlight the calendar feedback presenting a recommendation for the 2024-2025 school academic calendar. Thank you to everyone who provided feedback on this calendar. Your time and effort is greatly appreciated. So over the time frame of February 14th to March 8th, community feedback was solicited on the elements on the proposed calendar. 406 responses provided information. Responses were over students, parents, staff, and community members. Again, we thank you for your submissions. The board has had time to review that data. Within the calendar, there were school non-holiday dates of Autumn Glory, Veterans Day, Thanksgiving Monday, winter break, spring break, Easter Monday, and then a day after the Easter holiday. As Dr. McCartney shared, there are 3 makeup days in the calendar: January 20th, February 17th, and April 21st. At this time, we are asking the board to approve the proposed 2024-25 calendar as written.
Dr. McCartney, you have a recommendation?
I recommend that the 24-25 calendar be approved as reviewed tonight.
Motion on the floor to approve the 24-25 school calendar with the revisions that have been noted. Is there a motion?
So move.
So moved by Rodney,
Second.
seconded by Jason. Discussion. Discussions, concerns, anyone?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Dr. Willison said about the comments. They were very, very, very good. And I certainly will take them into account when we're doing next year's calendar. But appreciate everybody that actually took time to submit that.
I myself was pretty impressed too with the amount of people that took the time to respond. And I agree with Rodney. I'm definitely going to take that into consideration next year for the school calendar.
Yeah, I think there was something like 142 comments that were actually made
that's-
by people, which is an astounding number. We've never had anything like that before. I think one of the most controversial things for me did center around Autumn Glory Friday as to whether or not school should be in session or should not. And I think people were pretty centered on the belief that that was a day that probably should be off. But the committee felt that it was a day for school, so we'll see how the motion goes and see how the vote goes.
Sorry, if I could ask one question. If we would happen to give that Friday off prior to Autumn Glory, how would that change the calendar?
At first glance, it would move the date. I have a scenario for that.
Thank you.
Autumn Glory. The last student day would be June 6th.
Last day. Yeah. Anything else?
Well,
Mr. Hoover, can I make an amendment to my
Yeah,
motion?
yeah, well, I have to make the amendment, I guess.
I can make the amendment. You just need, someone needs to second it.
Somebody has to second.
I'd like to make a amendment to the motion that we schedule off for Friday prior to Autumn Glory. I'm doing this for a couple reasons. One is I got a lot of feedback from community members talking about how much our students give back in community service during that, either that Friday before Autumn Glory or during the week of Autumn Glory. We have a lot of our 4-H clubs that do things in that area. So for that reason, I'm making the amendment.
Okay, an amendment has been proposed. I need a second for that amendment. Second by Rodney. We can now have discussion on the amendment.
Sorry, I'll add, because I forgot that we couldn't go into discussion yet. Besides not only our folks that do community service and get some community service hours as far as our students are, I think there's probably several of us that are a little concerned about student absenteeism if we would happen to have school Friday before Autumn Glory. Maybe not only for our students, but also maybe for some of our staff that are involved with local nonprofit organizations that make a good bit of their income as far as to give back to the community during that time at Autumn Glory.
Any other discussion about the amendment?
I just agree with what Jason was saying because I used to be in the Autumn Glory Parade for different activities, well, the Fireman's Parade, I guess. And coming to school the next day after you've been up late the night before is a problem for some kids, so I think giving that day off is important.
Okay, well, there's an amendment, a second to amend the proposed calendar to incorporate Friday before Autumn Glory as a day off and extending the school year to June the 6th. All those in favor of the amendment as stated, signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
One nay. Okay, we are 3-1.
2-2.
Is it 2-2? Or did you voted as the original calendar? Yeah, you voted nay on the amendment. No.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We're voting on just the amendment at this point.
We're just voting on the amendment. Okay, let's try it one more time. The amendment, as stated, is to take Friday off for Autumn Glory, which would extend the school year to June 6th. That amendment would change the calendar as being proposed to us. Those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
It is 3-1. So the amendment does carry. So now the calendar that we'll be voting on will be one which will incorporate Friday off for Autumn Glory, extending the school year to June the 6th.
Yes.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none. Those in favor of the calendar as now proposed, signify by saying aye.
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 Those in favor of the calendar, I think I said opposed. Those in favor of the calendar, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
It is 3-1. Calendar is approved for 24-25 with that exception, with that change. Thank you so much. We now are going to look at our blueprint for Maryland's future and update on community schools. And that's going to be presented by a couple of people, Mr. Humble and Ms. Knapp.
Ms. Ross was not able to be with us tonight, but she is well represented. So, welcome.
Is it on? Can you hear me? Now it's on. Okay. Thank you, Dr. McCartney. Good evening. I'm Megan Knepp, and I'm here to give you a little update on the community school model that we have at Yockleeds Elementary School. So a community school is not new to the state of Maryland. However, it is new to Garrett County. Yockleeds was the first to be identified as a community school this year. The community school model is designed to promote positive, equitable outcomes. So the main goal is to level the playing field for all of our students in the school. The community school essentially serves as a hub that brings families, communities, and partners together. And the whole idea is to work together to remove barriers to learning using an asset-based approach. And finally, another takeaway for community schools would be that we provide wraparound services that enhance a student's ability to be successful. And those wraparound services are essentially determined by the needs assessment that is administered in the first year of becoming a community school. So the components of the needs assessment include surveys, which we administered at Yockleeds Elementary School this year. We administered 3 different surveys this year. We surveyed our staff, we surveyed our families, and we surveyed our 4th and our 5th grade students. Those surveys were collected and they were reviewed by our steering committee team at Yockleeds, and we used that data to determine the next steps in the decision-making process for our school. Asset mapping and a partnership inventory have also been created, and we looked at, as a team together, we looked at to see which assets we have available in our community, which ones are currently being utilized, and perhaps which ones are being underutilized at this time. And finally, we've conducted focus groups and interviews with essential key players for the community school model. And we are just soliciting ideas, feedback, and taking all of that into consideration as we move forward with our implementation plan.
Hey guys in the back, it's like church. If you're the last people to get here, the rows up front are available to you.
Well, just take the seat from the front.
Yeah, that's one approach, I guess. All right, Megan, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So these are some potential wraparound services that have been identified in the blueprint. Family engagement opportunities and supports, expanding and enhancing healthcare services, extended learning time and transportation, improving student learning environment and attendance, enhancing physical wellness, food in and out of school, and then finally enhancing behavioral health services and access to mental health providers. So this year, we have conducted the needs assessment, and like I said, we have been able to look at the results, and we have been able to meet as a team and review what kind of connection we want to make at Yockleeds Elementary School. So these are just some of the connections that we have started this year at Yockleeds. We have started and implemented an after-school program for our pre-K through 2nd grade students. Currently, this is 2 days a week, and we have 31 students as of right now enrolled. That is also with a partnership with the Garrett County Health Department. They've been really instrumental in giving us some guidance and feedback on what already currently works for them with our 3rd through 8th graders, our 3rd through 5th graders at Yockleeds. And the hope is to have a blended model in the future at Yockleeds.
So what do you do? Tell us what you do.
So we just had our first night last night, so I can tell you. So our pre-K through second grade students, they start off with a snack. Obviously, it's a healthy snack, and then they have movement and activities to promote physical wellness. It's very much like a structured play environment. They typically have a time for homework help and tutoring from our staff that have been hired. And then they also have some kind of enrichment lesson. So this could be a community partner coming in and working together with our students, for example, coding, the Discovery Center. The options are unlimited at this time. And then finally, they end the night with like centers and like quiet activities and things like that. We're also very proud that we have our student service team also available, and they are working the program as well. So among all of those things that are taking place, we also have our behavior coach, our counselor, and our health department therapist who is also there providing additional services as well.
How often will you have those?
The program?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so
after-school
right
program.
now, so right now we have the program. It started last night and it will conclude in May, at
Is
the
it
end of
every
May.
night, every other night,
Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mondays and Wednesdays?
Two
And
nights
ho-
a
and
week
How
right
many
now.
hours? How long?
It is from 3:30 to 5:30.
3:35 day. Okay. Is there transportation available?
So we did send an interest survey to our families, and interestingly enough, transportation did not show as a need. Less than 6% indicated that they would need transportation. We also have some things within the family engagement domain. We have some literacy nights coming up, one that we have called the book tasting. This is for all of our students. We are partnering with the Garrett County Judy Center and the Ruth and Lowe Library. This is to serve as a literacy night for our parents and our students, but also to have the Ruth and Lowe Library there and available with resources and information as we go into the summer months. Yoklades Elementary School has also partnered with the Garrett County Arts Festival or Arts Council to have our first school play, and that is called the Big Bad Musical. That is for our 3rd through 5th grade students. Auditions have taken place, roles have been casted, and practices are underway. One of the things I think we are most proud of is our Gator Zone at Yoklades Elementary School. This was a direct response from our community school needs assessment. Our Gator Zone is essentially our food pantry, care closet, just those basic items that our students and families may need. This is to give them access to it at any time. It is within our school, and we have multiple community resources who are supporting our initiative with that. So
Who are some of those resources?
So let me think here. Okay, the Rotary Club has been one of our biggest supporters, and they are organizing food drives for us. The First United Bank in Oakland has also organized food drives and donated many items. County United Way has also been a big support. And our families, we did a food drive at our school, and our families have donated items as well.
How have you advertised that to the county that this is ongoing, and somebody sitting here may say, geez, if I knew that was going on, I would donate,
Yeah.
whatever.
So with this being the first year, we've talked about this a lot at our steering committees where we've invited other partnerships to come in and be part of our team. So in that way, we've had other partners there, and they've kind of helped us spread the word. We also have taken to social media as our flyer with our food drive, and we are accepting donations. As we continue to grow, looking at next year, we would like to extend our steering committee participants and maybe broaden that horizon a little bit, but also inviting, at the end of this year, we're gonna have many vendors at our community celebration, and that's gonna be a way for us to informally talk with other partners as well. The Kindness Club was suggested by one of our students at Yoklades Elementary School. And so we decided that we wanted to do a Kindness Club for 6 weeks. Students were identified and they participated in showing kindness not only for others around them, but learning how to show kindness to themselves as well. So again, this was our student service team, and it was in partnership with the Garrett County Health Department behavioral health therapist. Ruby Payne is something that also showed up on our needs assessment. I was thrilled to see this come from our staff because essentially Ruby Payne is the foundation for laying the framework for the community school model. And so 11 staff members at Yocklades Elementary School received the training for understanding what the framework of poverty looks like. And then the next step, we had 4 staff members who just recently finished the certification to be a trainer to train the remaining staff at Yocklades. So again, something else we're extremely proud of. And I spoke a little bit about the community celebration. We found through our needs assessment that we need to raise awareness of what resources are available within our county and our surrounding area. So we are partnering with the Garrett County Judy Center again in June, and we are going to have a community celebration. Right now, we are asking vendors to sign up that they can come and share what they have available, talk with families, talk with parents, and then our families hopefully will leave with more awareness of what is available.
Questions besides mine?
Yeah, I actually have a few, sorry. One, congratulations. I think all your efforts, definitely, I think I'm excited to see these programs. And so I guess that goes into one of my questions is, since we have more community schools taking place in the county, will you share what you've been doing with those schools so they kind of have a blueprint or at least a starting point?
Yeah, and I want to take a minute just to commend what Mrs. Ross, Mrs. Knept, and the Yocklade community did to pull together. This was a new adventure for Garrett County Public Schools, and they jumped in, not only both feet, but their whole selves to commit to this community school model, and they've done a great job. And they kind of saw themselves as trendsetters, laying the framework. So to answer your question, yes, I plan on using Mrs. Knepp and the resources that they kind of use, the framework, because I think they've done a good job. Mrs. Knepp, and we worked with other counties across the state to look at best practices that they have used to try to learn from their successes, but also some of the struggles that they went through trying to stand these up. And what you don't see in this presentation is the amount of data. I mean, for Mrs. Knepp to say 6% needed transportation, I mean, she has a lot of that data at her fingertips, and that's what the needs assessment does. Everything is driven through the needs assessment on all the programming, everything that we're going to do going forward. And the exciting thing for Garrett County Public Schools is it doesn't cost us any. It comes through the concentration of poverty grant, which is great. That will help stand up some of those schools that we're going to have moving forward that are identified that way. So yeah, I plan on using that and pulling them together, because if we have 4 more schools next year, it's going to be a big lift for those 4 schools and doing the same amount of work.
And then I guess another question would be, have we checked with the resources available in Garrett County? So if we look at some of the wraparound services, and some of them may be physical health needs or mental health needs, right, which we know that there's a shortage, especially mental health, working with under the age of 18. Have we worked with the health department and other agencies in Garrett County to see what we can provide and at what level we can provide those services?
Yeah, we've actually signed a couple MOUs here recently, one with Baltimore Crisis Response that looks at trying to limit hospitalizations and inpatient hospitalizations. The consortium grant that Mountain Laurel and the Garrett County Health Department looked at expanding services to our students, were both just approved. But like you said, the issue is finding the staff to help support their programs and what they're trying to stand up. Have a meeting scheduled hopefully within the next week or 2 to look at what our next steps are on providing those services. But I think this quote that I just saw in a meeting that I was in last week was, for our county, I think the state average for mental health providers is around 300 to 1. Allegheny County was like 270 to 1. We were around 600 to 1 mental health providers. So with the what we're seeing with the mental health needs of our students, it's definitely a concern. We have some things that I've worked with Dr. McCartney on signing MOUs. It's just us recruiting and our partners recruiting the people to help support our students.
So Baltimore, I'm assuming, would be a virtual session with a doctor, or would be in
Nope.
person?
No, the good thing with that is, as of right now, they have one counselor that actually serves Allegheny and Garrett, but they're looking at adding those so they can actually provide supports into our schools to with a kid in crisis.
Great.
Yeah.
And that counselor is local, which
Yes.
helps too. Just because the name's Baltimore Crisis Response doesn't mean that that's where they're from.
Yeah.
I just want to commend you on the after-school expansion. I used to be the director at Southern Middle School for the after-school program, and pre-K through second was a huge area that we didn't have those age kids. So I'm glad to see that it's expanding to include all of them.
And that's one of the consortium grants, is the health department's looking at expanding more of those programs after school. So.
Yeah, I want to congratulate you on a great start. I'm really impressed with all these resources that you're bringing to the school community. I had a question on the Gator Zone. How do people access that? I mean, what's your process for giving away the stuff that's in there?
Yeah, so again, this year, this is our first year, so we're learning and we're growing. But this year, we have shared information that it is available, and we have parents who are requesting, so whether it be through a phone call or they're stopping by for a visit and speaking with me directly. Moving forward, I know Mrs. Ross and I are really looking at finding a way to have like a distribution day so that it would just be a set time and day where families could come, and it would kind of be like a giveaway at that time. So.
Great idea.
Sorry, one more question.
Go ahead.
And this might be for Dr. Miller, but whoever would like to provide the answer, because it's more specific to Blueprint. So if we have a student that falls in a need category, but isn't necessarily attending what Blueprint identifies as a community school, since the funds follow the student, I'm assuming that student could not take advantage of those services offered at another school that's not theirs?
I would say that you're correct.
I just like to find the flaw in the system. Thank you.
But I would also say that through Title I, there are some provisions. So if it is a Title I school, or if a student is homeless, then there are the McKinney-Vento Act can cover that. So there are some other avenues to get support through our social workers, through our counselors. I know a lot of our schools have supports in place, whether it be for school supplies, that type of thing. So we will do our best as a school system to meet the needs of our students and families to the extent possible. But to answer your question, I think you're correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would add to that, it's a conversation that we've had because, we're going to have students aging out of Yawklades. Does that mean that their needs stop whenever they go to Southern High School or wherever they go? No, their needs are still there, and it's our job as a system to continue to meet the needs of each and every one of our students, and we'll try to do our best. It's just nice to have those funds set aside to be able to do it. It just, we have to become a little more creative at times, so not undoable.
What would you categorize as your biggest concern moving forward? Is there something that looks like it's a mountain that's going to be very difficult to climb?
I think just with it's always staffing. Mrs. Knapp has been a great educator for our system, was an administrator, and she's done an amazing job taking the lead on this. But part of the requirement is that each school will have a Mrs. Knapp. So, where do those people come from? How does that impact our system as a whole? Because are we going to lose good educators to go into those, which we need? So what's the impact of that going forward? And also always, just like I was talking about, having the resources available. We're around 600 to 1 for mental health service providers. part of what the Accolades found out is we need mental health support. Are we going to be able to have the staffing available to meet the needs assessment things that we find out? So I think sitting in my seat as Director of Student Services, once we identify a need, are we going to have the staffing to be able to meet those students' needs?
I think all of us think it's a great program, and it's certainly one that fits the needs of Garrett County specifically. But I do agree. The difficulty is going to be to find people, and that's going to be a challenge for all of us. Any other questions, anyone? Okay, well, thank you so much. It was great to hear about that. Yeah. I think we're just going to, we can go ahead and start with public comment. Yeah, we'll go way past, yeah. We're going to go ahead and start with our public comment because it would appear we're going to have a lot of comments. And as long as we go past 7 o'clock, we'll be fine with our comments. Anyone who comes at 7 o'clock can certainly sign up, and we will certainly allow them to speak their 3 minutes as well. So I'd like to go ahead and get started as soon as Dr. Wilderson brings me the list. We will begin. Jane, is there a method for people to sign up? Just another one out there, and we'll pull it at 7. Say student concern. No, I'm just gonna say student concern. Student concern. Okay, it appears we have about 7 people who want to speak, so we'll go ahead and get started. Let me go to what I must read to you so that we're doing everything correctly. Garrett County Board of Education is pleased to receive comments and ideas from our public pertaining to the policies, procedures, and/or practices of the school system. We ask that comments be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per individual unless otherwise considered by the board president. There will be no discussion or action taken at the meeting, but may be considered at a future meeting. Issues that are specific to individual employees should be referred to the immediate supervisor for appropriate consideration and review. Rude, slanderous, or threatening remarks or other behavior that is disruptive or interferes with the order of the meeting will not be permitted. Topics excluded from public comment are individual personnel issues, comments identifying individual students or staff members, matters that are on appeal or may be appealed, topics for which the board schedules formal public hearings, advertising or solicitation for products and/or services. So those are the rules by which we will have public comment. The first public comment is about Pastor William Skipper. It has to do with Pride Flag and student concern.
Good evening. I come to this meeting for 2 reasons. First is support the Lions family, and second, in regards to a gay pride flag having been displayed in the Southern High School classroom. As to the support of the Lion family, I believe this incident was an abuse to this little 6-year-old child and a violation of parent rights. All persons involved need to be fired, and if not fired, severely disciplined, along with the public acknowledgement of wrong and public apology to the Lions family and daughter. I have been in touch with a law firm that has argued and won cases before the United States Supreme Court. Based upon that which I know about the situation and was able to convey to them, they felt the Lions should pursue this to the fullest extent of legally since child services was not involved. Now, as to the issue of the gay pride flag being displayed in Southern High School classroom, it has been said that this flag offers that community a sense of security and safety. It is my belief that it has nothing to do with security and safety, but a promotion of that lifestyle. As United States citizens, the American flag offers them the only protection that they need to feel secure and safe. If you allow the gay pride flag, I can think of several other flags that would have a right to be displayed. Would you allow a Christian flag? Would you allow Black Pride flag, etc.? It is my recommendation that this board ban the gay pride flag being displayed in all schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pastor Skipper. Next speaker is Kevin Lyons, student concern.
Good evening. It's been 1 month since the last meeting, and I'm disappointed to see that no progress has been made. And the lack of action is particularly frustrating, considering the time and effort that I put in to my testimony for the last meeting, including practicing my testimony multiple times to make sure that I could deliver it within the allotted time frame. Furthermore, I was really irritated to discover that the video recording of my testimony had been tampered with. These experiences have left me feeling skeptical whether the board's ability to effectively address any real problems at hand. I'm also concerned about the board's tendency to cover up important issues rather than confront them head on. For instance, during the last meeting, I was told that certain topics were off limits for discussion despite the fact that they are clearly relevant to the issue at hand. This approach only serves to further downplay those who have been wronged by the system. It is unacceptable that empty apologies continue to be offered without any concrete actions being taken to rectify the situation. We need to focus on finding a solution instead of constantly dodging accountability. To make matters worse, there appears to be a culture of tolerance towards blatant violations of policy among members of this line of work. A quick review of the top 7 violations are immoral conduct, incompetence, and negligent of duty, substantial noncompliance with school laws, insubordination, fraud or misrepresentation, and conviction of a crime. 6 out of the 7 have been committed by the adults in this case, and nothing has been done. Rather than taking these violations serious and working towards collective measures, you continually sweep things under the rug, hoping that nobody will notice or speak out against such behavior. Look, all we wanted in the beginning of this is my daughter to continue at the same school. That's all we still want. Her world's been turned upside down. She's 6 years old. Anybody to think this is just okay, that she should just get over it, you're cracked. There's something wrong with you. This is unfair to her.
Next speaker is Whitney Lyons, speak about a student concern.
Good evening. I would like to address the letter received from Central Office regarding my husband and my public comment at the February 13th board meeting. As stated in the correspondence, you indicated your daughter was subjected to a vaginal exam. In your discussion with a member of Central Office, you indicated your daughter was not touched and that it was a visual examination after your daughter indicated a health concern. Upon reading the initial paragraph of the received letter, I was thoroughly disturbed. The content seemingly dismisses the incident involving my daughter as inconsequential due to the lack of physical contact. My daughter was very explicitly visually examined. She was asked to pull down her pants and underwear to her ankles, bend her knees, using her own hands, expose herself at school, while a school employee proceeded to get down on the floor on all fours to get a closer look, all while 2 other individuals are also present, one of them not even being a member of the healthcare team. I do not believe anyone in this room, or any parent for that matter, would be comfortable with their child being asked to expose themselves in the manner my daughter was, regardless of whether they were touched or not. The individuals in question took it upon themselves to inspect my daughter's private parts without telling us, the parents. It was unreasonable and excessive. The school's reliance on special needs completely fails. There is proof that this search was without medical justification or emergency, without parental consent, and was contrary to professional and state standards for public school nurses. It is my daughter's Fourth Amendment right to be free from such invasive, unjustified searches of her person by a public school nurse. The special needs doctrine does not apply in my daughter's case because there is not any showing that securing a parent's consent was impractical or unattainable. My daughter's Fourth Amendment rights were violated given in the absence of a medical emergency or parental consent. One of the papers I just handed you contains information regarding a case similar to my daughter's. That case made it all the way to the Supreme Court and involves a 6-year-old girl with eerily familiar circumstances. While I am restricted from discussing personnel matters, I am seeking a school within my daughter's district that will provide her with an environment devoid of individuals responsible for violating her rights and making her continued education in her present district untenable. This transition has greatly influenced my daughter's life. We value the supportive staff at her present school who have helped her begin to heal and trust again. However, she deeply misses the connection she established during her time at her prior school. As board members and superintendent, it is your appointed responsibility to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for students in your county. My daughter should have never had to change schools. Our expectation is that during the upcoming months and summer vacation, necessary steps will be taken and changes implemented to enable our daughter's return to her original school and social circle for the 24-25 school year. As a parent, I witness my daughter's struggles on a daily basis. The pain and confusion are evident, and it's clear how this incident has impacted her. It is crucial for me to advocate for her rights until justice prevails. What was taken from her can never be given back, including her sense of safety and trust. The school system took a 6-year-old child who had no previous trauma and inflicted lasting harm on her, which is unacceptable and reprehensible. While being her mom means the world to me, not having the capacity or authority to fix everything hurts. What lies within my power, though, is utilizing my position as a parent to provide a voice and advocate on her behalf. Accountability rests with those of you sitting at the table before me. In closing, I will leave you with this. Sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make the decision right.
Kathy Snyder, student concern.
I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of the 6-year-old child that was asked to pull her pants down for visual examination of her vaginal area. This was done in a school on a school day. Whether by touch or through visual observation, no one will ever be able to tell me this was or is okay. Nor is it okay to not inform the parents of this type of action. I have to wonder if the child had not come home feeling wronged and embarrassed, deciding in her little 6-year-old mind that she should tell her parents if this action by people she thought she could trust would have ever come to light. As I've seen her innocence and trust stolen from her in this situation, it has sickened me to my very core. Maybe to all of you, meaning you all that sat here in front of me tonight, and maybe to those who've tried to sweep this under the rug, it isn't no big deal. That the kid will get over it. Well, I believe in what I'm seeing and have already seen in her since this happened. She isn't going to just get over it. She has apprehension of her doctor seeing any parts of her at her regular exams, even though her mommy's in the room. Those people that subjected her to this visual exam left an imprint on and in her mind that will always be there. The trust that she had in those there that day is gone. Physical was one thing, mental was another. They've stolen her innocence. They have stolen her friendship she had at this school. They've stolen the memories she made and would have made there. Her life has been turned upside down because of a wrong and uncalled for visual exam. I said earlier that I am sickened to my core. This has nothing to do with me, but it has everything to do with her. How can each of you sit there and think this hasn't affected anyone? It has affected her and her family. No one has even admitted the ball was dropped. No one that has had any involvement in this has made any effort to help this child get justice of any kind. I mean, not even an apology to this little girl. Now all at once we find out that there's new procedures being implemented. Well, that might be good, but at the cost of this 6-year-old girl. What about her? What about her thoughts? What about her feelings? What about her future? Those are things I want you to ask yourself. And I will tell you this, I am her grandmother.
I'm sorry, I cannot read the next person's name. I apologize. I'm sorry, sir? Paul Snyder. And it's a student concern as well.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Paul Snyder. I'm 66 years old and went through the educational system here in Garrett County. I am here as a husband, a father, and a grandfather, not a perfect man, but a man doing the best in the ways that I was taught. I sit before you with faith and knowledge of the difference of where I sit and the place where you all sit. I come to represent a 6-year-old and a family. As I sit here looking at each, I am reminded that each of you sought the position that you hold. Each of you are elected or appointed to a seat that was vacant. You sat as a body with one elected to be the head or the president. We know all your names and faces. You took your places by choice, elected by the people that voted for you. I realize that you're a board or a body that is tasked with making recommendations. After you make them, you act and make them known that they will be published and read by the community which elected you. Going through the school here in Garrett County, I have good memories of Mr. Everly. I was missing many days, and it became a problem, so I sat behind the desk, and the finger of Mr. Everly pointed in my face, and him telling me I was going to graduate because my mother deserved it. I liked that man. One of my favorite subjects in school was history, and when we look back, we see others in the same place we find ourselves tonight. I look for recommendations, and you look for a way to present them. Not in question is the 6-year-old, nor the 3 adults in the room with the closed door examining a child without representation, supervision, or parental consent. 1 child, 3 adults, with an agenda to examine a child without the knowledge of other staff, disregarding the guidelines already in place for such an event, or this, a Maryland law. However, what is the question is when the body or board is going to make a recommendation on this action and everyone involved. You have a similar choice. The family has a similar request. Make your findings and recommendations known. Your job, task is not to favor one side over the other, look friend or foe, but to fill the position you were elected to do, to make and have an educational system that every parent, grandparent, and every child can be proud to be part of. My grandfather told me many years ago, when a promise is made, I was to keep it or to the very best of my ability. But when I could not, it is my responsibility to go and to that person and tell them why I cannot. He told me that was integrity. I'll stop there. I have more.
You go ahead and finish.
Okay. The family deserves to have a date of when you will make your recommendations known. This has went too long. The innocence of a 6-year-old is not in question. However, the 3 adults in the room with the door shut is. The system you sought the place you hold, and even the families are looking for you for answers. You did not do this, but it has fallen to you. Make your recommendations. Let it be in print so that all can see. How you fulfill your office you were elected to, each member, let know how you stand so that you will be known for the matter. All children of Garrett County are at a crossroads. Do they have faith and trust in those leading them in their education, or know that they are alone until they get home or with friends? Set a date and live up to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Yoder, Swan Meadow Charter application.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm Jonathan Yoder. I'm currently serving as the Swan Meadow PTO president, and I'm a proud member of Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School Board of Directors. Since our last meeting, our commitment to the charter initiative has not wavered. Instead, it has deepened. We have been diligently continuing our work, engaging with educational experts, clarifying lingering questions, and tirelessly promoting the unique vision of Swan Meadow within our community. Our efforts have also led us to revisit and update our budget, incorporating our latest understandings and ensuring financial viability and sustainability for the school's future. Our journey has been one of learning, adaptation, and most importantly, community engagement. We have felt the support of parents, educators, and community members every step of the way, fueling our resolve and refining our vision. We stand at a pivotal juncture on the verge of potentially opening a new chapter for Swan Meadow, a chapter that promises not only to preserve but to enrich the educational tapestry of Garrett County. Approval of the charter would not mark the end of our efforts, but the beginning of an even more collaborative and inclusive endeavor. It signifies a shared commitment to educational excellence, heritage preservation, and the cultivation of life skills that are indispensable to our community's identity and well-being. As we look to the future, our focus is on partnership. A vote to approve the charter is a vote for a continued collaborative effort with the board, the community, and all stakeholders involved. It embodies a collective aspiration for an educational model that respects our heritage while equipping our children for the future. In closing, I ask for your support and approval of the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School. Together, we can usher in a new era of education in Garrett County, one that cherishes our past while forging a bright, inclusive future for our children. Thank you for your consideration, your time, and your service to our community.
Thank you. Arlene Lance, Swan Meadow Charter application.
Good evening. My name is Arlene Lance, and I come before you as a passionate advocate for the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School Initiative. Today, I wish to share with you the excitement and community support that has emerged around the proposed charter project. Last Thursday, we hosted an open house at Swan Meadow aimed at engaging parents, students, and community members about the prospect of transitioning into a charter school. The turnout was nothing short of remarkable, with over 100 individuals in attendance, demonstrating the community's vested interest in the educational future of our children. During this event, we were able to convey the concept of charter school for interested parents and grandparents. There was an air of curiosity and eagerness as questions poured in, reflecting a community ready to embrace an educational model that aligns with their values and aspirations. The highlight of the evening was an overwhelming enthusiasm as parents expressed towards incorporating heritage life skills into the curriculum. Skills that are not only intrinsic to our community's identity, but also essential for fostering well-rounded, capable individuals. The most telling indicator of our community's support, however, was a remarkable number of possible new enrollments. We were thrilled to have 53 additional students signed up for potential enrollment at Swan Meadow. This surge in interest would well bring us to our state-rated capacity of 69 and beyond for the upcoming fall. Such a milestone is a clear testament to the demand and need for the unique educational approach that Swan Meadow promises to offer in a charter school. This unprecedented community engagement and support underscores the feasibility and necessity of the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School. It demonstrates a collective yearning for an educational institution that not only preserves but nurtures the unique heritage and life skills that defines our community. As you deliberate on our charter school application, I urge you to consider this overwhelming show of support as a clear indicator of the community's desire and readiness for this. Let us embrace the opportunity to enrich our children's education and ensure the sustainability of Swan Meadow School for generations to come. Once again, many thanks to everyone that has given of their time and talents to make this charter proposal a reality. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we hope to continue our working partnership long into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one final addition to the public comment. Jeremy Gosnell.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Gosnell, and I'm a parent of a student in Garrett County Schools. The recent discussions regarding the display of a pride flag at Southern High School have raised concerns for several reasons. First, displaying pride flags is widely recognized as a symbol of inclusivity across the nation. Cities in Maryland, Frederick, Rockville, Hagerstown, they not only have pride flags, but also organize pride festivals during the summer. Our neighboring city of Cumberland also celebrates with an annual Pride Festival and displays pride flags, promoting a welcoming atmosphere that ironically enhances economic activity and stimulates commerce. Garrett County is the exception, not the rule, when it comes to hosting pride festivals and displaying pride flags. Second, the statements made in protest of the pride flag, which were shared publicly, are concerning. Accusations of indoctrination were made, and there were even claims that a teacher posed threats by displaying this flag. Furthermore, one allegation suggested a teacher may push for changes to gender and sexuality, which could be considered defamatory if not able to be proven. Other comments said the mere sight of the pride flag caused disgust, leading to physical illness. Such statements can create a hostile environment for LGBTQIA students, making them feel unwelcome and possibly endangering their well-being. The lack of intervention by the elected board to address these unfounded allegations against a GCPS teacher was disappointing. The desire to display flags known for intolerance, including those with religious symbols, which are prohibited in public school settings, is also troubling. The portrayal of Garrett County as intolerant and dismissive towards educators and the gay community in a public setting is concerning. This perception is magnified by the harassment some GCPS teachers face on social media, where they are subjected to unfounded and harmful rumors without any support from GCPS. Such public displays of contempt not only tarnish our community's image, but also pose a risk to our local economy. The economic implications of these comments are significant. Deep Creek Lake is a popular destination for visitors from across the state and nation and relies on a reputation of inclusivity and acceptance. The events and sentiments expressed at the previous meeting could deter potential visitors, impacting local businesses and the overall economy negatively. If your son or daughter was gay, would you purchase an expensive vacation home in Garrett County after watching the last month's board meeting? It is crucial for GCPS to actively promote inclusivity and combat bigotry, not only to support the well-being of 21st century students, but also to safeguard the economic interests of our community, which were put at risk by comments made at the previous board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment session. As stated, the board takes seriously all comments, and certainly many of those comments are discussed among board members in executive session. We will now move on to the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School, which is an action item for this evening. Be presented by the superintendent.
Good evening. So, as we all know, the Swan Meadow Charter School, Heritage Charter School, is a proposed K-8 public community school that plans to use teacher-parent partnerships to tailor an educational approach to the unique needs of each student. In looking at the charter application and also in reviewing the excellent work of the staff in reviewing the application, the questions going back and forth between the staff and the charter committee, we were able to identify several strengths for the charter application and the proposed charter school. As you know, they plan to use a classical school approach, which is different than the approach used in our other schools. They plan to build on the heritage of the community. You can tell by the presence here tonight and from visiting the school that there is great commitment to making the charter school work in the community. And they've identified a facility, it's our current public school facility, that they would like to convert to a public charter school. At the same time, there are some concerns with the application, concerns about implementation with the available resources, and I include in that the financial resources, the sustainability over time with finance and enrollment. And one of the things that the reviewers said repeatedly at each part of the application was that they noted that additional time was needed and more work in order to support the charter school application. So considering all of those items and also looking to some State Department guidance, one of the things that I want to focus on tonight is the last sentence on the slide, that an LEA may not reject solely because funding commitments are not secured, but approval of the charter can be granted with contingencies that include meeting reasonable benchmarks to be prepared to open. So with that in mind, I'd already sent a letter to the Charter Committee that further stated that as superintendent, I will continue to recommend to the Garrett County Public School Board that we use our authority to fund a public charter school as we do every other public school in the county. What I mean by that is at the same level. When we have to consider weighted student funding, that we would consider it for the charter school as we do all other schools. But knowing that we would have an opportunity to develop a contract with these contingencies and benchmarks in place, I'm recommending to the board approval of the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School application with the development of the contract to include reasonable benchmarks for preparedness to open in the 25-26 school year, therefore allowing for the development of final implementation plans during the coming school year.
Okay, the superintendent has made a recommendation to the board that approval of the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School application be extended pending development of a contract, which would include reasonable benchmarks for preparedness. The school would open in the school year of 25-26, and the development of that contract would be something the board would furthermore have to approve. So therefore, that being said, is there a motion as such?
So moved.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
We have two people ready to go. Sadie made the motion, and Jason made the second. We can now have discussion concerning Josh.
Yeah, do we have any idea of a contract timeline yet?
I'm sorry.
A contract timeline for the contingencies?
We should attempt to develop that contract within the next 30 days, pending board approval of the charter.
Are there other benchmarks? The contract, yes, and I'm assuming one of those is financial as far as startups, since you mentioned that in the presentation. Are there other benchmarks that need to be addressed in that contract?
I've asked each of the committees to review their work. I expect that there will be some benchmarks that we want in the curricular area, so that we feel secure that the students will do well on the state assessments. So I know one of the benchmarks that we will consider is sort of a crosswalk between the classical approach materials and the state testing. But I've asked each of the committees to begin considering the major things in their area that they would want included as benchmarks.
What is the enrollment of the school? What is the enrollment of the school?
Right now, the enrollment, I believe, is 43?
Yes, it is, 43.
43.
Ms. Lance spoke about more people being interested in having their kids there. That's exciting.
Yes.
It's my understanding that there is an application for a grant process that must be obtained through the state of Maryland, I think.
One of the things, and certainly if a charter founder wants to help me, I'm more than happy to hear from them. But I know that the, excuse my voice, I know that the charter school founders plan to apply for its a startup grant available through the state of Maryland and the Charter School Initiative. For the grant can be up to a million point two. So they can apply for that grant if they receive approval for the charter school. You have to be in the approval pipeline before you could apply for the grant. So I know that there is interest in the community in applying for that grant.
Questions, other questions?
Just a comment that I would like to make. As we received updates as a board, as I'm going to move through this process, one, I just want to thank both sides, both groups, for all the work that they put into this. I know it was not an easy lift on either side, so I really appreciate both central office's work as well as the Heritage Group. Very much appreciate what you've done.
Thank you for noting that. The amount of work from both parties, both the charter school group applying and Dr. Miller and the central office team was phenomenal. It was very focused and really gave me as superintendent deep information in order to make this recommendation.
Other questions? Okay, there is a motion and a second on the floor and a recommendation from the superintendent to approve the Swan Meadow Heritage Charter School application with the development of a contract that will include reasonable benchmarks for preparedness. Opening of the school would be 2025-26 school year, and the contract would try to be developed within the next 30 days. That being said, those in favor of the motion as stated, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And I will say, I think it's my 5th year as president, the oldest person has to be the president, so I guess that's why I'm the president. It's not very often that I vote. Usually when I vote, I make somebody unhappy because it's a tie. But I do want to say that I do want to vote, and I want to vote in favor of it. And the biggest reason I want to vote in favor of it is in the years that I've been involved as a teacher, I've been doing this now for 40-some years in some capacity. The passion that you folks have is the passion I wish every school in our county had, every community had. That's what education is about. The people who send their children to those schools have passion for that school and for their children. So I commend you. I wish I could some way move it on to every community. But with your leadership, maybe it will move to other communities. So congratulations. It's the first step in a new thing in Garrett County. But if anybody can pull it off, you can. So congratulations. Now, that being said, we're going to do a budget to figure out how we do all this. So our next thing we're going to talk about is the budget draft.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, good evening. I'm here this evening to give you a update on our budget process. It's been an ongoing process, and being new in the position, it's been a challenge, but I appreciate everybody's input in the central office. It's been helping me. We did share with you the detailed budget pages on Friday, I believe it was. And so tonight I just want to update kind of an overview of where we are with the budget and some other numbers that we have. If you go to the next slide, please. No, we're not doing those. It would be the revenue file. That's the third one, the estimated revenue. There you go. Great. Thank you. I would like to start with just an overview of the total estimated revenue. And what I've tried to show you here is comparison between fiscal 24 and fiscal 25 and by the various categories. But if you look over under the total column, you can see that fiscal 24, we had $65.4 million. In fiscal 25, we are looking at only $62 million in funding. If we go to the next slide, you can see that the restricted funding, especially on the federal side, we are seeing a $5.3 million reduction in funding, and that's due to the ESSER and Maryland Leads funding going away. The state of Maryland restricted actually went up $1.1 million, and that was due to additional funding that they moved from the foundation unrestricted funding to cover the concentration of poverty. And that number is going up this year because we will have more schools qualifying. And then you'll see new this year is a local restricted funding of $28,000 that came through the preliminary state aid, and that's also designated for concentration of poverty. At the very bottom of this slide, you will see the school activity accounts, and those are revenues and expenses that the schools incur individually. The estimate for fiscal 25 is $1 million, and that's sort of an average of what it's been the last several years. Again, that's just a preliminary estimate at this time. If you go on to the next slide, you'll see the unrestricted estimated revenue, and that was basically the same information I shared with you at the February board meeting, the preliminary state aid. Again, you'll see on the state share at the top, it dropped $1 million. That was the move from the unrestricted to the concentration of poverty. The local share, we have about $900,000 more this year in the minimum allocation from the local. And then other revenue, you'll see some increases there. So overall on unrestricted, we have about $780,000 more this year than we did last year. So that's the revenue that I wanted to cover. Any questions on that? There was really nothing new. And one comment I would like to make too on the federal restricted funding, we did lose the ESSER and Maryland Leads funding. The other numbers that you see on there are the same that we received this year because we do not have any updated funding yet. So we're just assuming at this point that we'll have at least that same level of funding going forward. Okay, the next slide, please. So with this slide, let me make sure it's the right one. I've got too many. No, that's not it, but we can go over that. That's the debt service. We can go over that one, but that's not next in line. That's basically the Johnson controls. And I have the amortization table for that. It will continue to go up, I think, next year, and then it finally starts to decline, and it will go away by 2031.
So will we.
Like to make this one go away before 2031. Absolutely. Go to the next one. Okay, and that's our school construction fund. You can see this year in fiscal 24, we had $14.4 million, which a lot of that was the Southern High School renovation and air conditioning, and then we had some architectural work done on Southern Middle to prepare for that project. And you'll see in fiscal 25, the $23 million is actually for that project that we'll be undertaking this year. We also have $3.4 million for the Northern High roof replacement, and then we have 4.1 for the Southern High roof replacement for a total of $23.6 million this year, which is about a little over a $9 million increase in construction projects. Any questions on that? Well, Rich is here.
I think the questions are going to be mostly next month, because
Oh, absolutely.
all of these are things that we've just received and
Right,
have taken time to take our books and
right. Take a
And,
look at.
and I'm sure there will be a lot of them. So I'll forewarn you. There
Okay.
usually are.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please.
We got
the
big
second-
challenges ahead of us.
Absolutely.
Big challenge the
absolutely.
next 2 months.
Yes. That's just a quick view of the food service. It's about a $400,000 increase from 25 from this year. Well, I should have one more that is, it would be a separate file that would say expenses.
Expense analysis.
And, well, if I may, on the
Yes.
food service fund,
Yes.
you can correct me if I'm wrong, please, but the food service should be self-sufficient again next year.
That's correct.
We do not expect to need to put any money into that fund.
That is correct. Thank you for
So
bringing that
that's a
up.
plus for us.
And this slide, I've attempted to pull together, based on those detail sheets that you had, pull together the cost by the object. I did not include salaries or the fixed charges with that, because we're still undergoing negotiations. We have other moves with the changes in the schools and the staffing that was covered by ESSER, so that's kind of a work in progress. We're working closely with HR to work through that, so hopefully we'll have that resolved sooner. But right now, if you look at the totals for fiscal year '24, just those four main categories is right at $10 million. This year, we are projecting at this point 11.2, so there's a $1.2 million increase in our expenses. Having said that, we have made some reductions to what was submitted to us, close to probably 300,000 or 400,000 at this point. We're still working through that to refine numbers as we get there. Also, we've been able to utilize the remaining ESSER funding to cover a lot of things, so that's helped us to the tune, I think, Dr. Miller, around 800,000 for curriculum. Yes. Yes, and there's other expenses as well, but that's been a huge help to us working through this budget. Having said that, like I said, we do not have salaries and fixed charges in here, so that, of course, is going to be an increase. Until we work through that, we don't really know for sure where we're going to end up, but hopefully we can balance everything out. So looking at the $1.2 million total, there's basically 5 areas that are the huge drivers that if you just look across those sheets. One is curriculum. We're seeing about a $400,000 increase in these pages that's not covered by ESSER, of about $400,000 for textbooks, media, and curriculum licenses. Another area is just licenses, about $100,000. That's a lot of our IT, like our Navients. Just a lot of those costs are up. A huge one that we have is transportation. There's a $300,000 increase in that, and most of that is driven by fuel. You know, it's just a huge driver. We have cut other things in that activity, but there's not really a whole lot we can do. And if you look at the number that we have in the budget, which is about 4.3 million, it's not that different than what we're seeing in prior years that cost has been on an annual basis. So I don't think it's out of line. And if I had to state my opinion, I could see that number even being a little higher next year as gas prices can fluctuate. I mean, we don't know, but I don't think they're going to go down. The fourth area that we saw huge increases are supplies, just general supplies across the board. And a lot of that, especially in our maintenance and operations area, is just due to the fact that ESSER had covered a lot of the supplies and things that we were able to buy. That's not there anymore. So that's about a $200,000 jump. And then we see an increase of about $200,000 in special ed. And working with Dr. Mangus, we looked at that, and we think that these additional funds better show what the actual services and assessments and things that are needed. We think it's more reflective, of what's actually going to occur, what the cost is actually going to be, as opposed to maybe what was budgeted in prior years. So we're trying, Dr. McCartney and I have kind of taken a different approach this year to look at the budget and have everybody a little more involved and try to come up with a more reasonable budget, what makes sense. If you looked at those pages very closely, you saw a lot of the areas there was no increase. And I mean, the increases really surprised me. I would have expected more just from my prior experience. So a few of those activities, they actually went down. So I don't think that there's anything extravagant in here. I think the real issue is going to be the funding.
Sure.
I think that's our problem, because the state preliminary aid was flat, and until we know what the federal funding is going to be, it's going to be a real challenge with everything else that's going on.
Thank you. Thank you. Well done.
You're welcome.
It is a challenge, and one of the things that we did was go through, I know you just got these, all of these budget sheets, which please consider draft. We pretty much started completely over. And Dr. Miller was highly involved in this work, as directors were, to try to put forward a budget that would require fewer transfers in the future. And certainly, from my perspective as superintendent, saying that's your budget, work within your budget, that we need to monitor what is in the budget and try to stay within our guidelines next year when we're implementing the budget. But it was almost like a zero-based kind of experience, and brought a lot of clarity, I think, for members of our central office team as to how things are budgeted and where they are. So, good job. Thank you.
Questions, concerns, comments, anyone? Again, well, yeah, we all have concerns.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will say, though, that we are on schedule. It is our belief that we will adopt a budget, I think it's June 11th, the June 11th board meeting. Once all the unknown factors are known, and there are many unknown factors at the moment. So we just have to wait to find out what those are going to be. But we have all the confidence in the world that between the central office staff, they'll bring the board a balanced budget. We will approve a balanced budget. So thank you very much for all of your work.
You're welcome.
But the work is still ahead.
Absolutely. We're just in the middle of it.
Right. Okay, student member reports. Let's find out what's been going on in the world of students.
Okay. For the Garrett County Association of Student Councils, our executive board recently met last week. We began planning our final General Assembly for the year, which has been set for April 11th. This will include our officer elections for next school year, including SMOB finalists, and a visit with Mr. Germain from Food and Nutrition Services. He wants to get some feedback on student lunches. Then from February 28th to March 1st, several of our student leaders attended the Maryland Association of Student Councils convention in Ocean City. There we voted for state officers and state SMOB finalists, attended workshops, and did other activities. Our executive board is also hosting a virtual How to Be an Officer night on March 19th for our potential candidates to learn the responsibilities and goals of their positions. As for general student updates, different county students participated in the Cool Schools Dunk on February 23rd. The class of 2024 at Northern High School hosted their Spring Fling Formal this past weekend. Both Northern and Southern High student councils hosted tours for upcoming freshmen, including tours of our CTE pathways. Several of our FLL robotics teams competed at the state competition recently. GACO also competed in their first qualifier of the season in Blacksburg, Virginia, and seemed to do well, so congratulations to them. Northern Garrett FFA has also been conducting visits to local elementary schools to give agricultural lessons, including soil, pH, and other activities. And Northern Middle, and Southern Middle 8th grade students participated in the county national history competition.
Good. Any questions, Braylee? I did see where the 7th and 8th graders toured Southern High School, see what their new school might look like, and some of the offerings might be for them. I'm sure that was exciting for those kids. Okay, thank you, Haley. Board member reports. Anything? I did go to Garrett County Public Schools Foundation meeting last night. The foundation each year twice a year, gives out many grants to teachers who apply for those. They're $250 grants. In the years that I've been doing that, sometimes there would be maybe a couple of teachers, maybe one, maybe two, maybe three, that would get those, and they tried to always set that at about 4 or 5 if they could. Last month, it was 2 months ago, we had the teachers come in and talk about their grants they got. And 3 of them did come in and talked about their grants. Well, lo and behold, when they ask again, there were 13 people now who want the grants. So they had a dilemma last night, and it's how to fund those, but through some creative ways, all those teachers are getting $250 grants to help with their school needs. So certainly the foundation is doing a wonderful job to help school children in our system and teachers in our system.
One thing that got to participate in is through the bank, First United Bank and Trust, as well as other community partners, actually did the Real Deal for Southern High School and Northern Middle School these past few weeks. For those of you not familiar with the Real Deal, we actually give kids a taste of a real life experience. They're giving a career with a salary, and they have to go around and find a place to live, buy a car, get insurance, all those things that most of us do as we do adulting on a day-to-day basis to kind of give them a taste of that. Our local sheriff's department, as well as the Maryland State Police, are there and throw through bumps in the road, what we call chances of life. We have to roll the dice and see if it's going to cost them money or if they're going to get some extra money, depending on what happens. So just a good activity to kind of teach the kids maybe what to expect after they graduate and some of the choices that they make now.
Great. Anything else? Anyone? Okay, superintendent update.
I have my microphone on now. I have a few items tonight that I'd like to bring to everyone's attention. One is that the Superintendent's Equity Advisory Board will hold its first meeting on March, scrap that date, will hold its first meeting
soon.
Soon. We just had a conflict tonight, and I have to change the date tomorrow. There were 40 applicants for the committee membership. We selected 10 to participate on the committee, and I just want to thank the public for their interest. I think having that much interest for a committee is certainly commendable. We will get letters out to the committee membership within the next couple days, and we'll get started on the work of that committee. The second thing I would like to highlight is we have had interest from the public in beginning a Garrett County Public School middle school sports program. Therefore, Mr. Paul Edwards, who is our Director of Secondary Education and sundry other things, including athletics, will be forming a committee to explore the possibility of beginning such a program. The exploratory committee will work throughout the 2024-25 school year and make recommendations as to the possibility of having such a program. The next thing I'd like to bring to everyone's attention is that school improvement plan mid-year progress results have been added to each school's webpage, which can be accessed through our main website. Interested parents and community members should visit those web pages to see the progress that is being made in the individual schools across the county. Another thing that I want to highlight for everyone was the Garrett County Public Schools participated in the 4th annual Cool Schools Dunk recently. Garrett County Public Schools raised over $45,000, which directly supports unified sports in Garrett County. Southern Middle School led the way in raising over $20,000 through their fundraising efforts, and Kyla Carr, a student at Northern High School, was our highest individual fundraiser, raising over $2,400. This year, Garrett County Public Schools was the first county in the state to have competitive unified bocce at the elementary level and continues to lead the state for unified sports in middle and high school. The philosophy behind unified sports is that training together and playing together is a quick path to building friendships and understanding, and we're very proud and committed to providing this inclusive setting for all of our students, and these funds will directly help us support this mission. So great job by everyone, including Mr. Dunk over there.
Those who got wet.
Those who got wet, most of us opted not to. I'm going to close with a statement that I think as superintendent is very important for me to make. The Garrett County Public Schools provides health services, a health services program to meet the needs of our students. Nurses daily provide care to many students in a safe environment and have done so for many years in this county. And I just want to reassure those that are here, members of the public, that our nurses are licensed, professional caregivers who you can trust. Also, I must note, as a reminder, that pursuant to Maryland law, personnel decisions may not be discussed or disclosed with the public. I don't have anything else, Mr. Woods.
Thank you. Anything else for the good of the order? Anyone?
Make a
Okay,
motion,
once
we
again,
adjourn.
Second.
I'm not asked for that. It's a good thing I've been president. It's not over till I say it's over. We do have a recommendation a motion by Jason, I guess, second by Josh, I'm sure, to adjourn. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And congratulations once again to your community.